Sick Libra. He has a VR contest going on where he wants to know about talent. If you haven't found Sick Libra, go ahead and find him. He's a cool dude. He's got a good channel. He's got some good content. I've had some extended back and forth with him on messaging and stuff like that, and I like him. He's a good dude. He wants to know about our talents and wants us to show them off. Well, I used to be talented, you know, the usual stuff. Cliff diving, cat juggling, break dancing, that kind of stuff. But as I've gotten older, those become harder and harder to accomplish without the use of 911. But something I've always enjoyed, and I thought I was fairly talented at it, is writing. I've written, I don't know how many songs and lyrics to songs and short stories and essays and things like that. A bunch of stuff. But a couple of years ago I kind of got interested in poetry, and I never had been interested in it before. I'd never learned anything about it. So mostly what, you know, the kind of stuff I think of when I think of poetry is what, you know, like free verse stuff, like doesn't have a lot of structure to it, put it that way. It has a rhyming scheme and that's about it. I mean, that and haikus. A lot of people know how to do haikus, so I wrote a couple of little ones just you know, as an example. Free verse. Cherries are red, atop Balkan blue. Farewell, McClellan, I bid thee adieu. Pretty much anybody can write something like that. And then haiku, I really enjoy because of the structure of it. It requires a certain number of syllables, typically deals with things you find in nature that are could be metaphors for something else. Let's see. Fog slowly rises, revealing the dark rich leaf and also my thoughts. 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. I've written tons of those little things. Most of them are worthless. A couple of years ago I ran across this thing that said, it was kind of a challenge about 12 types of poetry, and it explained these different types of poetry and stuff like that, and I got really interested in it, and I wrote a series of 12. I was going to do more than that, but I wrote a series of 12 all on the same subject, and I've read some of those. Actually, I think I've read just about most of those in a previous video, but a couple of those types of poetry got me really interested. I found them intriguing because of their super strict structure. There you go, sibilants, super strict structure. One of them is called a sestina. A sestina is it's 6 stanzas of 6 lines each. All 6 lines have to be 10 syllables. There is no meter to it, really. It can be free verse. You can use meter if you'd like. That just adds to the challenge. But each stanza, the last word of each line has to repeat throughout the poem in different patterns. I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, so in the first stanza, the last word of the first line of all the lines in the second stanza, they're the last words of different lines, 6, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, and then the third stanza, 3, 6, 4, 1, 2, 5, and so on. So they're in a different position in each stanza. And then the final stanza consists of 3 lines. It includes all those words as well in a little different format. I won't get too deep into it, but so that's a sestina. And I wrote one of those for this purpose. My pipe's gone out, and that's probably a good thing, because I'd never make it through this. Keep in mind, I have not read this after I wrote it except for one time, so it might be a little rugged, but here we go. I call it the steps of life. The newborn need not be taught his first breath. It's another thing to take first steps. Incredible is the miracle of life. With abundant joy and abundant fears, the child begins to make up his own mind, determined nothing will stand in his way. He begins to learn the right and wrong way, happiness and anger stealing his breath. Cartoons and Legos occupy his mind. Mud puddles and sidewalk cracks inform his steps. Underbed monsters become nighttime fears, outgrowing his shoes at the speed of life. All of a sudden, an expert on life. Everything has to be done his own way. No challenges or rules on earth he fears. No time to spare, nor will he waste one breath. Graduation, and he bounds down the steps, hits the ground running, money on his mind. Dreams of future things take shape in his mind. A wife, a house, and kids soon fill his life. Now he's cheering on a baby's first steps. Time flies, and he's watching them make their way. Can I borrow the car? He holds his breath, praying reality won't mimic fears. The kids have kids, and he abandons fears. Longer vacations, a retiring mind, relaxation. Take a well-deserved breath. Sit back with a pipe and contemplate life. No hurry now, he takes the scenic way. Checklist checked, he's completed the tough steps. Hold Grandpa's hand, dear, just a few more steps. It's time to pass on all those hopes and fears, confident they'll follow in their own way. He can retire now into his own mind. As he crosses the finish line of life, he lets out one last, long, satisfied breath. These are the steps we all walk in our mind. We trample down the fears as we live life, rarely pausing along the way for breath. That's the stages of life. The other type of poem that really interests me is called a villanelle. Any of you that know poetry know that the most famous villanelle is "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night" by Dylan Thomas. It also has a very unique structure, even more so in my opinion than that one. It consists also of 6 stanzas, 3 lines each, and the rhyming pattern, the rhythm, the meter, everything is all predetermined. In these poems, the first stanza consists of a line in iambic pentameter, and then another line with a different rhyming word at the end. So the first line has a rhyme, the second line has a different rhyme, and the third line has the same rhyme as the first. And the third line and the first line repeat throughout this poem. I don't know if you can see this well enough to understand it, but the first line is A1, then B. The A and the B is the rhyming, and then the third line is A2. Then in the second stanza, you have a rhyme with A, B, and then A1 repeats, and then so on, A2, A1, A2, and then the last stanza has 4 lines with the rhyming pattern of A, B, and then those 2 repeating lines as well. So it's a bit of a challenge to get these, at least for me, to get these not only to fit in that structure, which is fairly rigorous activity. If you don't believe me, try it. But also to make the thing flow and make sense within those parameters is where the challenge lies. You have to get a really good line if it's going to repeat all through the poem. So I tried it. I've written a few of these, but I gave this one a shot. I wrote this one last night. He walks alone beneath the mighty oak. The shadows darken him beneath the tree, consumed by thought, entombed in burly smoke. In time he will emerge from under cloak, but of tomorrow's rays, no guarantee. He walks alone beneath the mighty oak. A gentle tamp and then a mighty toke. A cloud bursts forth and causes him to be consumed by thought, entombed in burly smoke. He bows his head and dares to God invoke, for himself a closer walk with thee. He walks alone beneath the mighty oak. The shining light between the leaves bespoke a force to which he issues forth a plea, consumed by thought, entombed in burly smoke. The weight of life bears down a heavy yoke. A still small voice reminds him, come to me. He walks alone beneath the mighty oak, consumed by thought, entombed in burly smoke. So there you have it. That's the extent of my talent, or lack thereof. Also play guitar a little bit, but not well enough to embarrass myself on here. Anyway, I hope you get a lot more VRs than you've gotten so far, because I want to see people's talents as well. And I chose poetry because that's what you did in your first hinting of this giveaway. Speaking of burly smoke, Haunted Bookshop and my Blakemar Briars Aristocrat. If anybody wants to know more about that poetry, look up those two types of poems, Sestina, Sestina, and Villanelle, Villanelle. And play around with them and have some fun, or get really frustrated really quickly. Not sure which. Anyway, go check out Sick Libra, because he deserves your support. He does. Ignore the hype. Enjoy your pipe.